Welcome to the False Image Fashion Podcast. Of course, I'm your host again, Glenn Wiggins. I'm going to have a very, very special guest. Every guest is special, I guess I would say. But today we're in Atlanta, Georgia. We're visiting with Dr. Courtney A. Hammonds. What does the A stand for?
Antonio. Actually.
Antonio, okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So you're the academic program director of the Art Institute of Atlanta for the fashion, for the whole entire fashion program.
Yes.
You're a long way from Columbus, Georgia.
Oh goodness, oh
yeah.
God. But you know what? Columbus is home though.
Home.
I would never negate that. Columbus is home, but you know Atlanta's been my home for 15 years now.
So Columbus, Atlanta. Tell me something about Columbus. I don't. The only thing that I know is that it's very close proximity to Phoenix City, Alabama.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But what is there to do in Columbus?
Well, it depends. Columbus, for me right now, I call it a retirement city. The reason why is it's actually the second biggest city in Georgia, and nobody believes that. But you have the Army base, Fort Benning is there. So anyone that goes to the Army has to go to Columbus. But
I looked up something for Columbus. I did not know. A lot of people may not know, but Wayne Brady was born in Columbus, Georgia.
Wayne Brady, Frank Thomas, Ma
Wayne Brady.
Yes, so many different people.
Yeah.
Marilyn McCoo, that's before your time.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. But some blues artists, like some blues artists.
Yeah.
So when you were how was it when you were growing up in Columbus?
Well, believe it or not, I was there from 0 to 5, and then from 5 to almost 12, I was in Berlin, Germany. My mother was a supermodel. My stepfather was in the Army. So I guess I had that culture.
Your mother was a supermodel.
Yeah, so she modeled with all the greats, literally.
Wow.
Yeah, so I guess that's where my fashion came from. But my father's a pastor, so I have all kind of.
That's a different way of life on both ends for mother and father. As far as their influence, to you. So when you were in Columbus, what could you remember about Columbus?
Well, again, though, I remember everything because I graduated high school from there, too.
Okay.
When I came back, I did middle school here in Atlanta, in Marietta, out of all places, and where I live now. So life is full circle. Then I did high school at Columbus High School.
So how was, going back to Berlin, how was that experience? I mean...
It was my formative years. I loved it. So the Berlin Wall was up. When I came back, it was just coming down. I was there, really got a chance to see a lot of things that we see now in fashion. So the mohawks, colorful hair, ripped jeans, I saw all that as a child. So realistically, everything that happens in fashion happens in Europe first, and it comes here.
Yeah. So when you were in Berlin, was that when you actually went to Berlin as a young child? Was it then that you decided you were going to be in fashion?
I was always around it. So anything that you're around is just a part of you innately. It wasn't until I came back and really was in middle school that I saw that I really had that keen eye. I'm an advocate. I don't think everybody can be taught certain things. I think some things are just innate and natural. But as a career, if you really want to say that, it was in high school. And I actually had a full scholarship at FIT. But my parents didn't let me go. That's a whole other subject. Yeah. So I didn't get a chance to go to FIT, but life is full circle. I'm at the Art Institute of Atlanta, which is a major competitor. So,
right. So what was it? What was the actual experience that you had that said, okay, it clicked in your head that fashion is something that I'm really, really going to be involved into? Because I had the same thing in high school, to where I went from wanting to have my own computer company to where I walking down the highway and said, hey, fashion, I like going to the mall.
Right.
So what was it about in high school that really sparked that interest?
Well, it was several things. I was always a model, so I too modeled, and I trained, and I did those things. I was in acting, I did all those things too. All things art I did, even karate, I believe it or not. But when it came to actually a career, I sat down, I was best dressed in high school, middle school, all those things. But when it actually comes to education, though, it's time for the Black College Tour. I did that, and then we went to other colleges as well. Went to A&M, believe it or not. I'm glad I did not attend there. I'm just joking with that. But and ended up going to other institutions as well, and I really saw, you know what, this is really not what the direction I want to go, because all my family, they're teachers, they're doctors, lawyers, pastors. I didn't want to go down that route. But here we go with purpose, and I think this goes into your question. I think your passion and your purpose really collide, and you never know the journey that life is going to take you. And for me, God really guided me down the right way, and it was inadvertent. What ended up happening, and to make a long story short, I really had this aha moment. And coming from Columbus, I always tell people that was my foundation. It still is. I go every 3 weeks. All my relatives are there. I do have some elsewhere, but majority are there. But at the end of the day, I don't have to have on the ear when I go there. I can just be Courtney. It's not no Dr. Hammonds, none of that other stuff. But at the end of the day, it was a standard that was set. So I always wore a suit going to church. I always had bow ties and all those things on. So that was not a formal thing. It was just my regular attire. So when it actually came to Atlanta, I taught special education.
Right. Because we have to take a step back, because you said your parents said,
no,
this is a no-go.
No.
So, what were you feeling? Like, what were you feeling
I
at
was
the
pissed
time?
off. Let's be real clear. I was agitated with them. I was very upset.
Well, why do you think they had that thought? Why don't you think your parents actually? Why don't you think your parents had your mother was a supermodel?
Right.
So why don't you think she? Hey, son, of course you can go out there and just push yourself I'm going to push you into the fashion industry.
It's not safe.
Yeah.
It's not safe. And so at the end of the day, a teaching degree, a lawyer, a doctor, those things are safe when it comes to especially a small town.
And when you say safe, get into a little bit more about what you mean safe.
Safe, you can get some instant money.
Okay.
You can get some instant money.
Which when you go back to purpose and passion, that's a very, very fine line that you play with.
Yeah.
And how you value money. I think we were having this conversation traveling here about how I said, with what I do, is that I wish money never existed.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, how much stress and how much separation that money has in regards to when people do something, and when they want to continue to do it.
But we put that standard.
Right.
We put that standard.
Society
and America has really done that. And it's interesting you would say that. I had a conversation with one of my constituents, and it was interesting. That conversation went from, if you go to Sweden, if you go to Switzerland, if you even go to the UK, their time off from work is well over 4, 5, 6 weeks. We get 2 weeks, 3 weeks minimum. They value taking time for themselves and really going into their passion and having those things, and they don't have to have excuses. You know what? So in fast tracking to the other piece, and I don't want to negate this, is how I ended up at Alabama State. Because you asked me how did I feel. I was very upset, and Alabama State was not my first choice. Let's be real clear. It was FIT, and then I went to
Alabama A&M University.
No, it was not Alabama. But I'm gonna let you think that it's okay. But Alabama A&M, I do have a lot of relatives that went there. But at the end of the day, I ended up at Alabama State because they gave me a scholarship. And while there, I changed majors twice. Communications was my first one, believe it or not, and then I ended up doing special education. Teaching is my passion, and that's a part of my purpose as well. So anything that you do, you're still teaching for me.
Right.
I'm educating, I'm doing those things on a day-to-day basis, even if it's just walking down the street, teaching people how to walk in their truth. And one thing about me is that I've learned how to be delivered from myself. So as a child in Columbus, going back to that, I was that individual in the neighborhood that no one understood because I was wearing the clothes that everyone wanted to wear, but they would not do it because they were worried about peer pressure and all those things as well. So at Alabama State, I found my niche. I was an elite model. I did all those things as well. Trained under the Dr. Tania Stewart in the theater department. Did all those things. Right. And was known for fashion. Changed clothes 3 times a day. Oh my God. to be 20-something years old.
No, usually you do that freshman year, but you were doing it from
throughout.
Throughout?
Yeah. Not my freshman year, though, because I was crabbing the band. So I did that. You didn't have time.
So you played in the band?
Oh, yeah.
So you didn't get so it seems like you almost went through torture by going through Alabama State. Because first you're going to a school that...
An all-black school, which I was not familiar with at all.
Right, yeah. So you're going to a school that you don't want to go to, you didn't want to attend, and then you're in the band. Now, a lot of people don't, for a lot of people that may catch this, is that...
Drum roll. Drum line, excuse me. Yes.
Far past that. Of course, we share the same.
Yeah.
So you're going there, and so were you a musician before?
Yeah, I played saxophone for well over 15 years.
Saxophone?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite saxophone player?
Well, let me back up though, because I also play baritone saxophone. I play tenor and alto. Okay. But believe it or not, my grandmother and grandfather played saxophone.
Oh, so it's like a...
And I was like, wow, and they just handed it over to me. So when it comes to favorites, I really didn't have that because I did it because I was forced to. So, but at the end of the day, I ended up loving it. And crabbing the band, especially at the HBCU, was the hardest thing I ever did because I went to all diverse schools until going to Alabama State. So it was a culture shock for me. Not seeing everyone that looks just like me, and I'm like, oh my God, we all okay, we're good. But at the end of the day, it was stress as well because as you know, crabbing that until Thanksgiving for us, it was a hard experience, but I would never negate it. I love it.
So you play all your years of college?
No. One was enough for me.
One?
Yes. I won't go do that no more. No.
1 year?
I did it to prove. I really did, to them and to me. Because, as you know, a lot of, again, that's going back to being different. So I was that one that they wanted to single out. Oh, we're going to make you drop line. That wasn't going to happen. Not for that, nor my fraternity either. So we did it. Yeah.
So when you were at Alabama State, did people, now you're going to another level of, people that's trying to go and get their education. Was there anyone that was an influence that made you stick on that track, even though you were involved in modeling and everything else, but you're still at a place where fashion is not relevant within, like Montgomery? Right. So was it someone that that you had an experience with, or something that you did that still kept fashion in your mind, or still kept you?
This will help someone in your viewing audience. Actually, Dr. Ralph Bryson is my mentor to this day. He's 90 plus years old. He just retired from Alabama State after teaching 60 plus years 2 years ago. In changing clothes 2-3 times a day on campus, he would see me. He knew my father as well. From some different areas, but he pulled me to the side and he says, Hammonds, let me tell you something that'll take you from here to the rest of your life. Never explain yourself. And I was like, what does that mean? And I said, I'm just a little lost. And he said, let me go a little bit further. He says, at the end of the day, when somebody meets you, never allow them to say, what is that? Always allow them to say, who is that? And so from that, I decided that I don't have to make up an air. I don't have to say that I'm this person. All you have to do is just be that. So I just show up every day, and I make no excuses for who I am. At the end of the day, it's not for everyone, but it's for me. And I walk on purpose, because this is God made me.
Yeah. So after you graduated, what did you do after you graduated?
Moved here to Atlanta. No, I moved back to Columbus, believe it or not. And I taught for 6 months in Columbus because I finished early. Because we only had one graduation at Alabama State at the time. So I finished early. I taught at the worst school in Columbus, Baker Middle School, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders.
Well, they were better after they...
No. Emotional behavior disorders.
Okay.
Yes, and I had students all the way to 17 years old. Gotcha. Bloods, Crips, all that in the classroom.
Right. So
imagine this, going into that. And I picked up a desk one day. The second day I was there. Threw it across the room. And it splattered. They thought I was crazy. And I did that on purpose. One, because I was scared of them, but I needed them to be scared of me. Right. But from that, I learned, oh my God, they really do listen. They were writing out of dictionaries when I got there. They had never been to the Special Olympics. We did all those things. Then I realized, you know what, it's more than fashion. It's really about changing lives. So we did that, and here we are today.
Yeah. So why did you choose to actually move to Atlanta? Why Atlanta?
Because everybody that was entrepreneur, everyone that, not everyone, a lot of people I went to school with, they were saying they were moving here, and I had a job opportunity. One of the people from the church, she actually had an opportunity here and said, if you want to come, I got one for you. So I came, and I taught kindergarten all the way to 6th grade in one classroom, no paraprofessional. Yeah, it was interesting, and I did that for 2.5 years, and it was time to walk away after that.
So then you walked into, was it your business that you walked into?
Yeah. Oh, so that happened. Oh God, that happened just. I don't even know how to explain it. I went to Keller Graduate School of Business Management to get my MBA, and at the end of the quarter, right before, the instructor said, "Find a business partner in the class. You have to do a project, and that project is a business plan." The girl sat next to me. She said, "You're my partner." I said, "Fine." So we met at the tavern in Phipps Plaza for lunch. I believe every big decision happens over lunch or golf, so we ended up happening over lunch, and we didn't talk about the project. And I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? So we got up, we walked around the mall, we stopped in front of this brick and mortar. She says, "Welcome to our project." Her and her husband were opening a high-end women's boutique, and I said, "Well, how did this happen?" Because first of all, you don't see a lot of persons of color, especially in that mall, opening a business, and it was just never done. I started working for them on the weekends and still teaching special education. Here's the nugget though. As a child, at 7 years old, on my vision board, I always said that I wanted a boutique. So started working for her on the weekend, but what she didn't know, and this is a part of my testimony really, how I ended up here, what she didn't know was that I was on this crossroad, and I was saying, do I really want to stay teaching in Covington, Georgia? It wasn't even in Atlanta then.
Right.
It was Covington, 30 minutes out. Yeah. Do I really want to stay there and teach, or do I want to turn in my resignation? I started working. 3 weeks in, everyone came asking for me, and her husband was like, "Well, what is it about this Courtney?" They came and offered me a managerial position. Several things wrong with that. One, I have a master's at this point. And I'm not too big to say that I can work in retail. I'm not saying that. But I had a stable, safe, going back to that word, safe job. And if I would have called my mother and my father, they would have went ballistic, saying I'm about to quit teaching and going to work in somebody's boutique.
How old were you at this time?
23, 24. So I told them, I said, go back and pray about it, come back later, because I can't do that. So they came back 2 weeks later, offered me 40% of their business, no money down. So instantly, I became one of the youngest African Americans to ever own a boutique in Phipps Plaza. So I did that. My life really just kind of catapulted very quickly. Everything I've ever done. So special education taught me patience. So I can deal with any personality when it comes to retail at this point.
Right.
My MBA, my concentration is HR, human resources. So I hired, trained, I did firing as well, unfortunately. And then I actually was a buyer. So I went to Germany, where I was from.
Okay.
New York, Italy, and Spain, and we did the buying as well. And so it was interesting. So everything of my passion came right in front of me.
Right in front of you.
So I did that. It was Europe Designs.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
So, what about that business? When you were actually doing that business, what was the most important things that you took from owning your own boutique?
Looking back at it now, accepting failure. Accepting failure. So what ended up happening is, so we did that from 2003, to 2004, almost the end of 2004. Where Nordstrom's is now in Phipps Plaza here in Atlanta, used to be a store of Lord & Taylor. Lord & Taylor, we were literally right next to them. Lord & Taylor sent out a message to the entire mall, we're closing in 3 weeks. They closed. 3 weeks after that, we closed. I lost everything I had. I lost my house, my car, almost my mind. Literally, I mean that. I almost had to go to Bryce Mental Institute in Tuscaloosa. I'm very serious about this. And what ended up happening is I learned several lessons from that. If I would have done it all over, it would not have happened the way it did, but it was supposed to, because at 20-something years old, I was so green with an MBA.
Right.
So green.
Head is all.
Oh my God,
yeah.
just crazy. I was doing a lot of things with my personal credit. I didn't know no such thing as business credit. So why did I go through bankruptcy? because it was under my personal credit.
Mm.
So with that, that was a lesson learned. Will I ever go back and do that again? No.
No.
But am I grateful it happened? Yes. Because that's how I teach. I tell my students, you know what? Listen to me, because if you don't go down this route, you'll be all right. So
what was
that's
about
what
what part of the business did you fail in?
Well, it's towards the end, because it was a lot of things that I would have done differently. Looking hindsight 2020, prime example, all the buying. Going to Germany, Italy, and Spain literally twice a year, was that really necessary? No, it wasn't. Instead, at the end, I was using emerging designers in the city from Barter College, which was under Lord and Taylor in the mall, and they just closed. I was using a lot of the designers towards the end, and we did an incubator system. So what we did was a consignment type of situation. They'll create 5 pieces, and once I'll give them portions of the funds once it's sold. If I would have did that from the beginning, we probably would have still remained. But at the end of the day, it wasn't on purpose, so it's all right.
So, if someone is they're going into their actual, boutique business, what are the first steps do you think what are the first things that they need to do?
Ask why. I always believe everyone should ask why, because if you don't know how to answer that why, you don't need to do it. Because some people say, I'll ask you, why are you doing false image? I'm guaranteed you can tell me why. And at the end of the day, if you tell me why am I teaching, I can tell you. If you can't give me a concise answer, you don't need to do it. Second thing, you need to have mentorship, because at the end of the day, if you don't have someone that you're looking up to, even if you don't know them, look at the things that they did wrong, things they did correctly, and you want to model yourself towards that.
Because I always think, and I started out working in certain boutiques, and it always seemed like the number one thing that they said about capital. They always mentioned capital.
Right.
But then me coming in as a 19, 20-year-old, I always thought about the interaction that you have with your customers. Hence now, that is what is driving everyone's business model crazy now, even from the bigger brands to the smaller brands. Everyone is trying to capture the audience. Everyone is trying to control the market. And you have Prada, Gucci, all these big companies that they're trying to figure out what are some of the new ways that we can interact with our customers to keep them.
Right.
Because now the smaller brands are shooting up real quick with social media and everything else like that. So I always thought about that being a big portion of, don't go for just getting a customer, go for someone that is going to become a friend. They're going to be able to see you for more than just your business.
The other piece of that is also having experience. Because if I don't come to you and you don't offer me an experience, why would I want to come back? And so at the end of the day, I think experience trumps everything, because when you have an experience, I can drive from Marietta where I live and I can go an hour away just to a restaurant. Why? It's because that experience draws me in. The experience is going to bring customer service. That experience is going to bring capital, because you have retentive clients. And so I think it all works hand in hand.
So when you were working at Neiman Marcus, what were some of the things that stood out to you if you were hiring someone? So if someone wants to actually get in retail, what are some of the things that they need to aspire to be or aspire to actually take action on in order for them to get that position?
To answer that question, though, you need to know my experience with Hammonds, though. Because I did not start in human resources. So I started on the sales floor.
Right. You move your way up the ladder.
And so on the sales floor, I didn't even know the culture. So here's the thing, I think it's so important to know the culture wherever you want to work. So at Neiman's, it was a total different culture. I came from Phipps Plaza, but it was a smaller boutique coming into Neiman's in the major mall that was very touristy and high traffic. You don't have a lot of people there. It's a want store. It's not a need, clearly. So here we go with the experience. I had to learn at the end of the day that culture, that language, all those things. I knew a lot of the designers, but some I did not. So I had to educate myself without making myself look ignorant. So at the end of the day, you had to really learn vicariously. I had to shadow some people. I had to really find that mentorship, and Sometimes people didn't even know I was looking at them as a mentor. So what does it take? It really, can you handle the stress? Because that's a commission, draw versus a commission area. So draw versus commission, sometimes some people not going to walk away with a check. They go walk away with a check, but they go owe it back to the company. And so until they get that mindset as well, you know, that's not going to be something permanent. So it's a little tricky. So it's interesting, different culture.
So, so what about someone that is on the other side of that gate? They're not in the door yet.
Okay.
They're not in the door. You're interviewing me or someone else. What were some of the things that stuck out to you? Because I'm pretty sure you had your criteria. You had to go by the company's criteria as far as hiring someone. They had to check off certain ones. What was it about someone that struck your interest if you were interviewing them?
Following up. I think at the end of the day, the small things really matter. Now, especially certain generations, millennials in particular, a lot of my students, that generation, they don't know how to follow up appropriately. I believe in handwritten thank you notes. If you can give me that with correct spelling, that gets you in the door right there. Follow up and know who I am. Listen, that's so important as well. So in an interview, if I ask you a certain question at the beginning, circle back if I ask you if you have any questions for me. Remember some keywords that I mentioned, because sometimes we're just testing you and we want to know, are you listening? Are you retaining what we're asking? And then the other piece is, do you know the company culture? Do you know when it was founded? What are some of the ups, some of the downs, and what can you bring to the table as well? I think that's so important.